Romans chapter 1, verses 8 to 15, gives us a stellar example of what a Christian leader, Christian pastor, or otherwise, never mind an apostle, should look like. Paul's desire to visit Rome is shaped by thankful prayer, mutual encouragement, and gospel obligation among the nations. Paul's desire to visit Rome is governed by more than personal affection. His longing is shaped by thankful prayer, mutual encouragement, and gospel obligation. He prays continually that he may come to them by the will of God. He desires to strengthen them and to be strengthened by them. And he remains eager to preach the good news in Rome because the gospel has placed him under obligation to all people. Notice this. Paul begins with gratitude. He says, "I thank my God through Jesus Christ for all of you." His first movement towards the Roman believers is not correction, it's not suspicion, and it's certainly not self-promotion, but instead, it is thanksgiving. Paul recognizes God's grace at work in them before he speaks of his desire to minister among them. Even his thanksgiving is offered through Jesus Christ, showing that Paul's relationship to the church is mediated by the Lord, who has gathered them to himself. The reason for Paul's gratitude is that their faith is proclaimed throughout the whole world. That does not mean every person everywhere had literally heard of the Roman Church. But it does mean this: their faith had become widely known because Rome held such a central place in the empire. Their visible faith had become a testimony beyond their own congregation. Paul does not treat this as a reason to flatter them. He treats it as a reason to thank God. This opening gratitude shows the posture of apostolic care. Paul does not treat the Roman believers as a project to control. He receives their faith rather as evidence of God's work, and his thanksgiving becomes the doorway into prayerful longing. The faith of others should first move us to gratitude before it moves us to instruction. Paul gives us that example. Paul then calls God as witness to the constancy of his prayers. He serves God in the good news of his Son, and that service includes unceasing remembrance of the Roman believers. His ministry is not only public preaching, travel, and apostolic labor, it is also hidden prayer. The same gospel that sends Paul outward and among the nations also bends him inward before God on behalf of the church. And his prayer is specific. He asks that by any means now at last he may be prospered by the will of God to come to them. Paul's desire is real and strong, but it is not self-governing. His longing is submitted to the will of God. He does not assume that a good desire automatically gives him authority to act on his own timing. Instead, he prays, he waits, he seeks the Lord's providential opening. This gives Paul's longing its spiritual shape. He's not restless because he lacks trust, and he's not passive because he trusts God's will. He prays actively while submitting patiently. That's the good balance right there. His plans are real, but they remain beneath God's rule. In this way, Paul's apostolic desire becomes a model of sanctified ambition. It's earnest. It's also prayerful, purposeful, and surrendered. Paul's reason for wanting to come is not vague. He longs to see them so that he may impart to them some spiritual gift, to the end that they may be established. His desire is pastoral and strengthening. He wants the Roman believers to be made firm, built up, and more deeply settled in the faith. Yet Paul immediately clarifies what he means. He says that he wants to be encouraged together with them, each by the other's faith, both theirs and his. Paul does not imagine ministry as a one-directional transaction, where the apostle gives and the church merely receives. He expects mutual encouragement. Paul will minister to them, and their faith will also minister to him. That clarification is important. Apostolic authority does not cancel Christian fellowship. Paul can strengthen the Roman believers without placing himself above the need for encouragement. He can give as an apostle and still receive as a brother. The faith of the church is not insignificant because Paul is some kind of apostle, so there is no, shall we say, celebrity status. This reveals something deeply, healthily about the gospel partnership. The church is strengthened when gifts are shared in humility, not displayed in superiority. Paul's longing is not to dominate the Roman believers. It is to participate with them in the strengthening grace of God. Their faith and his faith are meant to meet in mutual encouragement. Paul then explains that his desire to visit Rome was not sudden or casual. He had often planned to come, but he had been hindered as well. The timing hadn't been ready yet. His delay did not mean indifference. His intention had been present for some time, but providence had prevented the visit until then. His aim was to have some fruit among them also, even as among the rest of the Gentiles. Paul's longing for Rome belongs within the broader Gentile mission. He does not seek fruit as personal achievement, but as the proper outcome of gospel ministry. Where the good news is preached and received, God brings forth fruit, strengthened faith, obedient response, deeper establishment, and gathered worship for Christ's name. This leads into Paul's sense of obligation. He says, I'm a debtor, both to Greeks and to foreigners, both to the wise and to the foolish. The gospel has placed Paul under obligation to all kinds of people. Cultural refinement does not make someone more worthy of the gospel, and lack of refinement does not make someone less worthy. Human wisdom does not place anyone above the need for the good news, and human foolishness does not place anyone beyond its reach. Paul's eagerness to preach in Rome flows from his obligation, or the obligation that he sees that God has placed on him. Rome may be powerful, Rome may be influential and culturally significant, but it is not exempt from the gospel's claim. Paul is eager to preach the good news there because Christ's lordship reaches all people, and Paul's apostleship is bound to that mission. Romans 1:8-15 therefore shows apostolic longing purified by the gospel. Paul thanks God for visible faith. He prays under the will of God. He seeks mutual strengthening, and he longs for gospel fruit among all nations. His desire to visit Rome is not driven by reputation, curiosity, or ambition, but rather, it is shaped by the grace-given obligation of one who serves God in the good news of his Son.